Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be testing out the new Rank 1 Pokemon in the Ultra League on PvPoke, and that is Bellibolt. Bellibolt is a pure electric-type Pokemon with the moveset of Sucker Punch, Parabolic Charge, and Zap Cannon. Now, PvPoke has this ranked as far and away the #1 Pokemon in the Ultra League, but after running some simulations on it for the meta overview video that I released a week or two ago, I had some concerns that it might be a sim hero. So today, we're going to test it out. The team I'll be using is Primeape lead, Credilli as the safe switch, and Bellibolt as the closer. Hopping into game number 1, picking up a pretty solid lead for Primeape as I lead into Gastrodon. Gastrodon obviously would be a nightmare for Bellibolt, as Bellibolt would have absolutely no play there. Part of why I was really interested in running Primeape is specifically because Primeape has really nice play if you run Ice Punch into both sides of Gastrodon plus Zygarde. Obviously with Ice Punch, it's going to be able to hit for big damage into Zygarde, and as the Primeape player, you can always win the 2s against Gastrodon just due to your incredibly fast pacing. So right here, I am going to get to double up on Rage Fist. My opponent is always just going to let this go, but I'm going to exit heavily boosted on the Primeape and with energy as well. So Primeape already setting the team up to a pretty nice start. In comes Galarian Moltres, and this is such heavily boosted damage from the Ice Punch. That's going to force a shield. I get to a Rage Fist. Unfortunately, could not make another Ice Punch, but Primeape already being a wrecking ball on lead, and now I send in Bellibolt. Opponent going to send in Drapion. I bank some energy, switch into Credilli, and I'm able to get a catch and sneak. They are able to land the Crunch. The Crunch defense drop does come through only a 20% chance this season, so it has been a little bit lowered from the past. But now they're going to get chipped away with this Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb landing means that their Crunch is now not nearly as deadly. But they get another defense drop, so they're actually fine with their Crunch damage if they just keep getting these debuffs. Aqua Tail is going to pick up the KO. Back in comes Bellibolt, in comes Galarian Moltres, and I will go for an undercharge here because I do want to exit with some residual energy, but I wanted to buff up my defense before they hit me with a move. Galarian Moltres goes for the Brave Bird. My defense is already boosted and that's resisted, so I will get a big farm down. In comes Drapion. I will get to the Parabolic Charge, and Drapion has just taken too much damage. Parabolic Charge picks up the KO, and we get the game 1 win. We move to the next match, leading Primeape into Shadow Fortress. Obviously, resisting Bug Bite is really nice here because Bug Bite is a terrifying move when it's not resisted. Rage Fist is going to land, and my opponent is going to continue to farm. Oh, they actually tried to CMB tie there. Maybe they lagged by a turn or something and meant to throw 1 turn earlier. They are now going to lower my attack with a Rock Tomb, but I get to boost it right back up with the Rage Fist. Rage Fist is going to land. I'm going to try for the full Karate Chop farm down here. Opponent's going to switch into a Tentacruel, trying for a snipe down with Acid. I do have a very high rank Primeape. We barely hang on, and now I get to send Bellibolt into Tentacruel. Tentacruel is going to be firing off a Scald here. Scald is going to connect. Do we see an attack drop? No, we do not. And now I will look to overfarm ever so slightly because Bellibolt's pacing is not great. Go for the Parabolic Charge, and I will be able to get a farm down. Honestly, I thought that the Parabolic was going to KO there, so I was a bit surprised that it didn't. In comes a Shadow Charizard, and this just feels like game over at this point. I can just shield, farm up. Here, the opponent, unfortunately, gave Bellibolt a lot more credit than it deserves when it comes to Bellibolt's pacing. Bellibolt is pretty slow to moves. The goal of Bellibolt is that Sucker Punch allows it to hit for neutral in matchups where Electric is resisted, and then it can just outbulk things with its good stats and with the guaranteed boost from Parabolic Charge. But the pacing is still a little bit of a concern. Here, I'm able to fire off the Rock Tomb with Credilli, and unfortunately for Charizard, that's going to be a 1-hit KO and game over. We move to the next match, Primeape into Shadow Gliscor. Now, Gliscor obviously got a buff this season as well with Fury Cutter, and this is a matchup where I'm very happy to have Ice Punch. Ice Punch, big damage, absolutely rocking the Gliscor, and I may be able to shield once and Karate Chop down here. We're going to have to see. It will be close, and I just cannot. My opponent, I believe, could have made a move there, so I'm just going to fire off the Rage Fist and exit boosted and still very, very healthy. In comes Galarian Moltres, and oh my goodness, so far, this has just been the Primeape show. Primeape absolutely feasting. Ice Punch, big damage. My opponent, oh no, and I'm just double shielding the Primeape because I know I can Karate Chop down unless they pivot out. They're going to pivot into a Bellibolt, and Bellibolt will immediately be put under fire. Boosted Rage Fist is going to get the shield. I'm firing off another Rage Fist as well. Primeape went down 2 shields in the lead, but I'm getting all those shields back. And then to add insult to injury, we're going to catch Parabolic Charge on Credilli. Say it ain't so. Oh, that is so unfortunate. Now, I get to fire off a Rock Tomb. My opponent has already buffed up their defense. Rock Tomb still going to add up, and they're farming up so much energy with the Belly Bolt. They make a nice catch. They take advantage of the desync of the timers to catch the Grass Knot onto the Moltres. But unfortunately, even with that catch, this game is still just not winnable because I have the health advantage in the Belly Bolt mirror. They go for the Zap Cannon. Now I get to bring my Belly Bolt into theirs, and I'm just ahead way too much in terms of my health. So I'll just fire off the Parabolic Charge. Parabolic Charge is going to KO their Belly Bolt, and I'm able to take the win. Primeape into Skeleturge in the next match. Now this matchup could get a little bit scary, as obviously Skeleturge is all about ramping up its fast move pressure, and Primeape, even in the Ultra League, not a big fan of Incinerates. My opponent actually throws on alignment. I guess they wanted to force me to make the first shielding decision of the match. And they were able to do that because I'm going to shield first, but now I can throw 2 in the move and then 2 in the move after. They're actually going to end up saving that Skeleturge after they no shield and bring out Feraligatr. And I'm just going to stay in here with this Primeape and try and get as much value as I possibly can onto the Feraligatr. I'm already extremely boosted. And even though I do have an electric type and a grass type in the back in Belly Bolt and Credilli, I just want to try and get as much possible value out of the Primeape, because that was kind of my thought process behind the team, was use Primeape just as a one-man wrecking ball, and then you have 2 bulky debuffers in the back that can kind of cover each other's weaknesses. Here my opponent has Paldean Tauros Aqua Breed, a Pokemon that's now ranked pretty high on the Ultra League rankings. I believe it's top 20 if I'm not mistaken. They're going to make a pretty nice catch here onto the Skeleturge, but realistically that's fine because I've now boosted up my defense, which means that even if they got to a move, it just wouldn't KO. So I'm still in a pretty fine spot with Belly Bolt. Parabolic Charge is going to pick up the knockout. We've got a Core Breaker on the lead in the next match, and its name is Golisopod. If the Golisopod is on Fury Cutter, obviously Fury Cutter hits for big super effective damage into Credilli, so I can't really switch to Credillian. However, if it's on Fury Cutter, then Primeape can actually win the 2 shield. So Primeape is going to be firing off another Rage Fist. Opponent is going to end up letting that through, and honestly, that's very fine. I'm okay with tanking 1, shielding 1, and then just looking to farm as much as I possibly can. My opponent farms up quite a bit. They try for a catch onto Shadow Drapion, but the catch attempt is unsuccessful. This is a +2 Ice Punch. That's going to get a shield. They're forced to fire off the Aqua Tail because they would not have got that farm down. I could have made another Ice Punch, but I'm still very okay with just trying to exert as much possible pressure as I can onto my opponent. So now I land the Ice Punch, and this could potentially set up a really nice farm down for Belly Bolt. So Belly Bolt, obviously going to be absorbing this crunch damage, looking for the Sucker Punch farm down, and getting the farm down as well. That is quite nice. But what's not nice is a Shadow Steelix. And just like that, all this energy on Belly Bolt is completely useless. I fire off the Parabolic Charge just to buff up my defense to make it more awkward for them to try and get rid of me. I'm going to throw another Parabolic Charge. I couldn't really switch out because my clock wasn't up. Now my clock is up, but I don't want to switch. Obviously, they still have a Golisopod. It's very low health, but it has a lot of energy, and I need an ability to potentially catch onto Primeape if they bring it in. So my opponent is forced to throw off multiple moves. I was able to get them to about half HP there with the Sucker Punches adding up, as well as throwing a lot of Parabolic Charges. So I was able to do a little bit of damage in the matchup, but obviously I had a huge energy head start. Now, I'm going to try and farm up as much as I can before unleashing Grass Knot. My opponent is going to end up committing the shield, but as always with Credilli, I need to make sure that I'm pretty close to a move here, always covering for the Golisopod switch in. I was expecting them to do 4 and try and go for a CMP sack, so I ended up just blind switching there. I didn't end up getting the catch, but it still is going to work out because the Golisopod has a move banked, but I have a shield and they don't have a second move bank, so we're still going to win the game. It would have been a really cool play if that's when they decided to go for the snipe and tried to like CMP sack and find a win con there, but we're just going to take the win with Credilli. We move to the next match. Primeape staring down Belly Bolt. Opponent get a save switch into their own Primeape, and them being down a turn is really nice for me here because I get to fire off the Rage Fist right away, and they're always going to be 1 Karate Chop behind. I go for my next Rage Fist, and I end up losing Charge Attack priority. I do have a very good ranked Primeape, so that does make quite a bit of sense. I'm going to shield up there first here, because obviously it could have been a potential close combat, and I'm going to try and Karate Chop down. It looks like that I can actually get the Karate Chop down here, which would be very, very nice. Oh, but they live on 1 HP. All right, now I know I can't get the Karate Chop down, and I end up losing Switch and a shield, and that's basically just game over. What's even more game over is the fact that a Venusaur is now on my screen. I am going to be able to buff up my defense with Parabolic Charge here. Parabolic Charge, never going to do much, but the goal is just to try and make it so 2 Frenzies do not knock out. So my defense is boosted. Frenzy still did a lot though. I don't know if maybe I'm expecting too much, but I really felt like a Pokemon as bulky as Bellibolt after you buffed up its defense would feel bulkier than it feels in testing. They're going to fire off another Frenzy Plant. It will not knock out. There's going to be the simultaneous switch as I bring Credilli into their Bellibolt. Now, if I just wasn't down a shield for no reason because I tried to go for a farm down, this would be a very easy win. But since I'm down a shield, things could get a little bit complicated. My opponent is just going to look to buff up their defense more and more with Parabolic Charge. They obviously still have that Venusaur lurking as well. I'm just going to try and lower their attack. So this is a very interesting endgame where they're continually making it harder and harder for them to get knocked out, and I am continually debuffing their attack to make it harder and harder for them to knock me out. So I fire off a third Rock Tomb at this point, and I'm probably going to need a Grass Knot if I want to get close to knocking out, but even a Grass Knot I don't think will do it. So I continue to farm up here, over farming, and I actually end up throwing on alignment there just because I was expecting them to switch after 4. I just needed the damage, and we get a catch. And this is a win, or at least it should be, because I can survive the 3 Vine Whips, but I get 1 turn bring in that allows them to do a Sucker Punch and switch. And that, combined with the huge throw that I had in that initial matchup, will cause me to lose the game. We move to the next match. Primeape staring down a Giratina. Giratina going to be hit with a Rage Fist. I'm going to overfarm here. We predict perfectly their overfarm, and we get the catch onto Credilli. I'm not necessarily sold on Credilli being the third. I just wanted something very, very bulky that was going to do a good job at handling things that Bellibolt was going to struggle against. Here I get met with a Toxicroak. Now Toxicroak, obviously, Poison Sting, a new move that it has this season. I've seen Toxicroak be used. I'm still not very convinced on it, unfortunately, but I really like Toxicroak as a Pokemon. So I do hope that I end up being wrong on Toxicroak, but like here, like this is miserable. Toxicroak unable to get a farm down by any means. Toxicroak Dynamic Punch will pick up the KO. I'm 1 off the move on Primeape. They're going to save the Toxicroak, reset that attack drop, well the multiple attack drops, and catch onto the Giratina. Now, I'm going to save some energy on Primeape and send in Bellibolt. I think this is where Bellibolt is at its strongest. Being able to use it to just absorb damage with its bulk and try and farm something down to help offset its incredibly poor pacing. The 4th Sucker Punch does barely pick up the knockout there. In the back is Typhlosion. It's actually a regular Typhlosion, which is a bit unfortunate for me. If it was the Shadow, obviously, I could Parabolic Charge and farm down, but it's the regular Typhlosion. Here, I end up throwing 4 in the move because I just want to put pressure on that shield. My opponent will now fire off energy, and they're going to have to Blast Burn. If they Thunder Punch, which they do, it's not going to KO. In comes the Primeape, and I'm just firing off the Rage Fist because I know that I need to boost up my Karate Chops to farm down this Toxicroak. Toxicroak has so much energy here. They probably have 2 Dynamic Punches loaded, and they do, but nothing can stop Primeape. Primeape proving why it's the king of the fighting types, getting the full farm down, exiting with the boosted Rage Fist loaded, and Typhlosion never stood a chance. Rage Fist picks up the KO, and that's a good game. We move to the final match, Primeape staring down a Bellibolt. Now this matchup, Primeape cleanly wins the 1s, and in the 2s, it wins so severely that Bellibolt does not even land a single charge attack. Bellibolt is farming past the Parabolic here, so they may be trying to bluff a Zap Cannon. They're going to end up no-shielding, and you know what? I'm going to shield here. If it's a Zap Cannon, I can just Karate Chop down after. It is the Zap Cannon, no debuff. Opponent is going to realize they're getting farmed down. They're forced to pivot out. In comes Feraligatr, but they're just so far behind. I'm already 2 stages boosted, and Primeape is going on an absolute rampage. Rage Fist after Rage Fist, crashing into Feraligatr. Feraligatr getting farmed down. These Karate Chops looking like counters as I shield, and I will get a full farm down of the Feraligatr. I exit with so much energy. In comes Galarian Moltres, and I believe these are now +4 Ice Punches. I'm going to overfarm in case they try for the catch. They don't, and now let's see it. A +4 Ice Punch onto Galarian Moltres, picks up the KO. In comes Bellibolt, and Primeape fully 1v3 sweeps an entire team. And I think that battle right there perfectly encapsulates some of the issues that I have with Bellibolt. Bellibolt obviously sims unbelievably. These are win rates that we very, very rarely see. Even in the 0 shield, like it's like a 75% win rate. In the 1 shield, we're still pretty close to 70 as well. But I think when it comes to actual gameplay, situations are rarely so static, where oftentimes in the 1 shield, as we saw there, Bellibolt can land a Zap Cannon and KO the Primeape. But if you actually play it out, Primeape can just shield that Zap Cannon, and then suddenly you're in a situation where there's a +2 Primeape that has a ton of energy that can just run away with a game. So I think Bellibolt, it's not a bad Pokemon by any means, but I would probably put it more down as like a top 20 Ultra League Mon rather than the #1 ranked Mon. And I think that's because the simulations, obviously, it's a computer trying to approximate a static matchup. Even energy, even shields, how is it going to go? But games are a lot more fluid than that, and I really think that the combination of its slightly less than stellar pacing and the fact that a lot of its heavy wins are really relying on landing Zap Cannons, I do think that Bellibolt, like, it'll still be a very, very usable Mon for sure. But as we saw, like, quick Pokemon like Primeape, which we know from meta to meta are really consistently good ever since Rage Fist was added. Primeape has been an absolute star. We saw Primeape just absolutely go off game after game after game. And I really feel like, even though the Primeape Bellibolt core is a really good one, I really feel like you could honestly probably sub Bellibolt out for something else and still have really nice results. So I know this was an attempt at a Bellibolt review, and normally I don't really feel underwhelmed by a Mon, but I'm feeling a bit underwhelmed by Bellibolt here. Bellibolt is at its strongest when you're able to play out those static 0 shield matchups. Like if all shields are down in an endgame, obviously you can't have a Primeape decide to shield and make your life uncomfortable. You can just land your Zap Cannon and be a pretty happy individual. But I do think that when shields are in play, that it'll suffer from a lack of consistency, where if you have a Parabolic Charge no shielded, or if you have a Zap Cannon shielded, then suddenly its win rates go from astronomical to only about 50%. So it's a Pokemon that I think some people will find a bit frustrating to play with and to play against, just because of its extreme inconsistency in terms of the large gap in energy cost between its bait move and its nuke move. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.